Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Travel Safely with Bryan Mulligan. Travel Safely is presented by Applied Information, creator of the Travel Safely smartphone app.
Welcome, everyone, to Travel Safely, the business talk show bringing you the latest in innovation from transportation, technology, and entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Bryan Mulligan, coming to you from the Subaru Business RadioX studio in Gwinnett, Georgia. The show is sponsored by Applied Information, a technology company here in Gwinnett, focused on using technology to save lives, improve traffic, and to drive commerce. Safety is a major question in the transportation industry. 40,000 people in the United States alone die on the roads each year, and millions more injured. Something has to be done, and we at Travel Safely are trying to come at these problems in a new way. Our guest today is retired Fire Chief Jackie Gibbs, who recently retired from 41 years with the Marietta Fire Department. Welcome, Jackie.
Thank you, Bryan.
So today what we're going to do is talk about improving the safety and the efficiency of emergency response in the traffic using technology. So, Jackie, thanks for joining me on the show. Let's just start off with a bit of sort of the human interest stuff of the Jackie Gibbs story. So, how did you end up being Fire Chief of Marietta, of the Marietta Fire Department, and spending 41 years, as I understand it, in Marietta Fire Department? Tell us about it.
Well, it really just, I grew into it. I was born and raised in Marietta, Georgia, and as growing up, some great friends of my parents, actually they're very close friends, was a firefighter with the city of Marietta. So as a family, I went on vacation and grew up around a Marietta firefighter, and every young man wants to be a firefighter. So it was just something that was in my blood from very early on. As I graduated from Marietta High School, I was looking for a college to attend, and the good folks at Southern Tech right there in Marietta, which is what it used to be called. Now it's part of Kennesaw State University, but Southern Tech at the time had a fire science degree program.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to go to college and start my education off in the fire protection world. And growing up around somebody who worked in the fire department, I was able to have some experiences around the fire station. So just took off and started going to college and started trying to get on a fire department. And the only fire department I wanted to work for, of course, was Marietta. So after a little bit of time and a little effort there, taking the test and then having to wait through the process, finally got hired. And Marietta was a great fire department because they supported young firefighters in their pursuit of higher education. So City of Marietta was just a great place to work because they let me go to school and flex my schedule and have other firefighters work for me while I went to school, and then I paid them back the time. So starting at Southern Tech and it being a great school, finished my fire science degree and got the education bug and just kept on going to school, and then got my bachelor's degree in industrial engineering technology. So doing, methods analysis and product study and time and management and efficiency was something that I was just attracted to and stayed with it. And I thought it would work well in the fire service, and it truly did. It paid off greatly for me in my career. So starting as a tailboard firefighter, you next step up as a firefighter engineer, and that you get to drive the fire truck, which is absolutely the best job in the fire department, is getting to drive the fire truck. And everybody wants to drive a fire truck. And worked my way on up through the ranks and went into the fire prevention area because, as a firefighter, you're going to these calls, you're responding to people's homes or businesses where they've lost so much of their lives. It doesn't take long to realize that prevention is the way of the future for the fire service, and it's been that way for a bunch of years. So I migrated toward the safety codes and the safety side of the fire service in all aspects, not only for public safety but firefighter safety. So going through the fire marshal's office and becoming the fire marshal for the city, getting heavily involved in the safety aspects, led me to the fire chief's position, and I was very fortunate to be the fire chief of the city of Marietta for 18 years. It's a wonderful job and a wonderful group of folks to work with, and I was just very blessed.
That's actually a fantastic story, because I mean, I've known you for some time, but I didn't know that the two big takeaways, in fact, were this. One, every small boy's dream can come true of riding a fire truck and things like that. As raising two sons, they always look at a fire truck going back. And even in this technology business, I mean, I get technology guys grown in our ages who say, hey, do you think we can get to ride in a fire truck? So
Nothing like it in the world.
So that's the one takeaway. And the second is that it's actually, what you've actually said is that firefighting actually is a technology business.
It truly is.
You've actually applied science, and I didn't actually know this, so that you were a science degree in fire prevention. I didn't actually know that there was such a thing, but good for you. I mean, it's a combining two really good things there.
Well, the fire service has been in transition and will remain in transition for a number of years because we in the public are slow to catch on, and the fire service has to continually push to improve the public safety aspect. It's really a tragedy in this country because we actually have the solution to the fire protection problem, and those solutions are out there in the prevention aspects. But economic factors and us as a public, we are just slow to adopt the things that we know we should do. And, how many times have we heard that you need to wear your seatbelt? And then how many times do we hear people say, or people in accidents who don't have a safety belt on? And it's just, we're so slow to do that sort of thing. So the fire service has its work cut out for us. But at the same time, as a career and growing up, for me, it was just the most fun you could have is working at the fire department. It was just a great job.
I mean, I can hear the passion that comes through in your voice and your passion for, I mean, what ends up being saving lives and providing a safer environment for people and their children and so forth. Where does that passion come from?
I don't know. I really think I was just born with it. I really wanted to be a firefighter, and growing up and around it a little bit, just with a family friend. There is a huge satisfaction in helping people, and from a fire safety education standpoint, as far as being the fire marshal and working in codes and working in fire safety education, there's a huge satisfaction when you see that light come on for someone, when you give them information that you know they're going to take home and you know they're going to use, and you know their family's going to be better off. It's very satisfying.
So after a career in the fire service, this is, for anybody who's listening or kids are thinking about leaving school and what they're going to do, this is something that you can recommend as being a firefighter.
There is nothing more fun than working in the fire service, having an opportunity to work with people. And it is good to go to a place and help someone whose life has devolved into chaos because they're experiencing a fire emergency, a medical emergency, a highway crash, and help them bring order back to where life has gone into chaos.
That's actually a great way of looking at it, people whose life has gone into chaos because one of these catastrophic events. But I'm going to digress there, because for the rest of us, if we see a burning building, we've got this overwhelming urge to run away. Now, if you're in the fire service, you can say, well, let me go and run towards that fire and run into that building and see whether anybody's there. How do you change the instinct from running away to running towards?
Well, and I think a lot of people are curious about a lot of things, and so my personal belief is you're only truly afraid of the things you don't understand. And so if you have been curious about fire, and little boys oftentimes are curious about fire, so essentially firefighters are licensed pyromaniacs, so that's what we do. But you have that curiosity, and then it drives that educational piece, and you want to understand what's going on inside that structure that's on fire, and again, that satisfaction of helping someone who doesn't understand. And so if the firefighters, as they arrive on scenes of these mini structure fires that they go on all over this country, that they've studied it. They've studied the science. They're understanding what's going on in that building, and they know that if they use their skill, they use their equipment, they use their training, that they can have a major positive impact on somebody and really help somebody who's not only their lives and their health could be evaporating, their personal belongings are evaporating too, and they can really make a difference.
Well, so in fact, what you say, as somebody said to me, an overnight success is, comes about after 5 years of hard work. And so same with the firefighting. I guess it's the training. I mean, what percentage of the time would a firefighter spend training versus actually responding to fires and things?
In my department, we were a training department, so we spent an overwhelming majority of the time training, thankfully, and less time responding. That's the biggest challenge, I think, for the fire service now, is keeping their training up, because the call volume is going up more and more. We taught the public to call 911 if they were in trouble, and the public learned that lesson. And sometimes now they call 911 when they really shouldn't. There are things that they call the fire service for, and law enforcement as well, where they really aren't having a life-threatening emergency.
Come and get my cat out of a tree.
Come get my any number of things, and that's one of the things that I think the fire service really needs to work on, is re-educating the public on what is an emergency, so that when the fire service is needed, they're ready to go, and they are available. So training was a huge aspect of it, is a big time consumer and a big expense, but it's obviously, like anything else, it's worth every dime. We're a lot like the military. We have to train, we have to do an awful lot of things over and over again, so that when the emergency is there and we're involved in it, it's muscle memory, and you're not trying to think about what you're doing.
All right. So in fact, as you're rushing towards this burning building, it's not a case of going, oh, this is a novel experience. This is the first time I've seen one of these. I guess you're thinking, well, apply this lesson, apply that lesson, apply things, so it becomes more instinctive.
And it has to be. And the fire service, again, back to our technology discussion, is having to move to new ways to train, because we can't go and set buildings on fire and practice with them as often as we used to. We used to do that routinely. But with all the environmental concerns, it takes a great deal of effort, a great deal of money, and there is more risk involved in live fire training. So as the military and other folks have had to do, we've got to learn to train and use other training methods to keep our folks up to snuff on their work.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. And so after the break, we're going to talk about what can technology do to help. And here's some more stories from the front line. So on that note, here's 30 Seconds with Sarah.
This is your transportation news in 30 seconds with Sarah. California may repeal its latest gas tax increase. In November, Californians are headed to the polls to vote on repealing a bill aimed to raise $5.2 billion a year for transportation, road repair, and new construction. It includes a 12-cent per gallon increase on gas tax, as well as fees for diesel and zero-emission vehicles. Supporters of the repeal, including gubernatorial candidate John Cox, claim the tax is excessive to working families. Opponents claim the infrastructure is in need of critical repair. Back to you, Brian.
In case you're just joining us, this is Travel Safely with Bryan Mulligan. How to save lives, improve traffic, drive commerce, and help the environment, with our guest Jackie Gibbs, who's the retired Marietta fire chief from Marietta, Georgia. We work together on a connected vehicle system in Marietta. And I call it that because that connected all the fire trucks to the traffic intersections. And that's how we met a number of years back. And these technologies get firefighters and emergency responders more quickly and safely to emergencies. As you saw it, where somebody's life is now in chaos instead of being the order because of some emergency that they've had. We also call it green to scene. What it is getting green lights for the fire truck and bringing everybody else safely to a halt. How did all of this work for you in Marietta?
Well, it was one of the biggest improvements in our opportunity to respond safely and effectively that I've seen in my career. Having the opportunity to have the fire truck talk to those traffic signals as they approach the scene and get that green light to scene and bringing everyone else to a stop gave the fire apparatus operator the opportunity to see his intersection clearing in front of him, approach the intersection more safely, and then have the confidence that everyone else was going to be stopped, and as the traffic cleared out of his way, to proceed on. picking up valuable time as they responded with every intersection they came to. So for a fire apparatus operator, as you're running a call, as you're driving to the scene, you've got a million things on your mind about the call that you're going to, what you're going to face, how you're going to position your truck, where are my hydrants, what type of accident or what type of emergency am I coming to, and having that green to scene just frees them up to drive the fire truck and drive it in a more safe fashion. They have the confidence that that intersection is going to be clearing in front of them, and that the fire truck being able to talk to that intersection and carry that, okay, I'm going this way, okay, I'm going that way, and the next intersection down, knowing I'm coming and that it's going to clear up, it just makes driving the fire truck so much safer. It relieves them of the pressure of trying to find a way to get through a congested intersection, and lets them focus on where they're going, how they're moving through the traffic, and how people are clearing. You just have to visualize, if you can, the having that traffic move out and get out of your way, and give people the opportunity to get out of the way. People in this country, Americans, do crazy things sometimes when a fire truck comes up behind them. They're loud, and sometimes with our new automobiles, they can't hear them until they're right up on them. And so the fire truck's coming in, they hear it at the last second because their radio's on or whatever's going on, and their car is so noise-proof that it frightens them, and they take evasive action sometimes, or they just slam on their brakes and stop right in front of you. Using the glance safety application and having those intersections move out in front of you gives people the opportunity to get out of the way in a safe fashion, and in some cases they really don't even know you're getting out of your way because the intersection begins getting cleared before you get there. So it's the biggest improvement I've seen in our ability to respond effectively in my career.
It's so fantastic to hear. And I'll tell you why. I'm a technology guy. I've spent my career making these kinds of technologies. To actually sit opposite a guy who's actually used it and said, yeah, it makes a real difference. This is what technology and what we're trying to do with our Save Lives and Improve Traffic mission is, to actually make a real difference. Sometimes people talk about vague, could be, should be, might be benefits at some 10 or 20 years in the future. And it's fantastic to hear that we're actually making a difference right now with connected vehicle technologies that are available today and working today.
It's just amazing, and all you have to think of as a driver is the intersections as you approach them are clearing in front of you, and it's such a common sense thing, and then to actually see it working, just to see it out of the cab of the fire truck where the traffic is beginning to move out of the way. Our construction of our roadways now is really improving. A lot of cities are putting in greenscapes and streetscapes and those sorts, and they're just a real improvement for the community. But they create, unintentionally, a hazard for the fire department because the public who's in traffic, who's stopped, has nowhere to go. There's medians on both sides, there's curbs, there's sidewalks, and so giving them the green light in front of the fire truck moves the public on out of the way, gives everyone else a red traffic light, so they're at a halt, and it reduces the chaos that the fire department creates in the wake of running to an emergency call. It just makes everybody on the road's life easier, safer, and better because the fire truck is there, it's cleared the scene, it's moved on to the emergency, and everybody gets to return to normal quicker than they would if this app wasn't available.
It's fantastic, because one of the things we spoke about a little bit before the show was this business of a negative intersection or a negative approach or something like that, which is when the fire truck approaches a red light. And the way I understand it is that before the system, the instruction to the fire driver of the truck is to stop at the red light.
We absolutely had
go.
to do that. We absolutely had to do that. That's for public safety, and that's for the safety of the firefighter. You could no longer trust with cars that are so sealed up and noise-proof, you could no longer trust that they actually saw you or heard you. As loud as the air horns are, as loud as the sirens are, as bright as the lights are, that's still no guarantee that they saw you. And so this app helps relieve that pressure, because we would tell our fire apparatus operators, bring that truck to a stop. Look every way you can, make sure all the lanes are clear. We've actually had and have seen video of drivers who would swerve around stop traffic into a turn lane and then try to get through the intersection ahead of a fire truck that's approaching. Had we not had that stop, the fire truck would have been struck. And in fact, we did have one struck one time in an intersection with a person who just, their only comment was, well, everybody stopped and I saw an empty lane, so I took it. Well, they took it right into the side of a fire truck. And so not having to bring that fire truck to a stop improves your response time tremendously. Plus the fact that you've got that traffic out ahead of you and that you've moved out of the way, it just is the best improvement in our response time that I'd ever seen.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the other thing that's coming is autonomous vehicles. And so this is going to be something else, is where you have to have these kind of connected vehicle applications like we did in Marietta, because otherwise you've got the situation with an autonomous vehicle approaching a green and it's expected to stop for a fire truck that's going through on a red. Now that just won't work, because an autonomous vehicle is going to be a long time before it recognizes what on earth a fire truck is. So we have to be able to, work for that situation as well, of turn the light green for the fire truck and turn the light red for the autonomous vehicle so that it'll safely stop.
Technology is where all of our traffic and traffic planning and automobiles are moving and improving and using that technology. So this type of application is really a must use and a must have for the fire service into the future.
Fantastic. It's always interesting to hear what I call war stories from the front. So tell us an anecdote or something about an incident in your career that you thought might help drive change, or a big incident or whatever the case may be that you remember that made an impact on you all these years.
Well, there's a lot of them. The big fires are the ones you remember. For me, it was having the opportunity to drive a fire truck, and we went to United Plastics Films and back in the 80s, and a very good friend of mine described the building, which was over 300 feet long, and it was well involved in fire when we got the call. And I was on the second alarm, and for folks who are older and remember the TV show Bonanza, that's the way he described the side of the building, was the map on Bonanza catching fire in the middle and just burning from one end to the other. And we literally burned the building to the ground over 300 feet long in about 20 minutes. And I actually had laid fire hose and connected to the fire hydrant, and with water flowing through those lines, they actually caught fire in the street and burned a hole in the fire hose. That's how hot it was. So you remember those types of fires, the ones that break your heart and drive you to prevention and drive you to technology, are the small children that have been lost in fires, and knowing that an efficient response time, knowing that all the prevention things that we have now, residential sprinklers, smoke alarms, would have made a difference, and those children would have been alive today if they had advantage of the technology and that technology had been used. So those are the ones that every firefighter remembers, all the way down to the truckload of cows that crashes on the interstate and ties the interstate up for hours on end. So it's those times that every firefighter sits and remembers and talks about those. But hopefully we in the fire service are moving to impress upon the public, use the technology, go toward it, take advantage of the fire prevention and safety things, not only for their use, and then the firefighters have to use them too. We got technologies changing rapidly for firefighters to improve their safety during firefights, and we've really got to give them those things to make sure everyone goes home, is a slogan in the fire service.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point I hadn't really thought about. I mean, I'm sure that some of the children are lost and some of the lives that are lost must be in your memory. But to end on a more positive note, we've spoken about the future and working together to make the world a safer and better place. I know one of your retired colleagues has written a book, which I wrote down here. It's called I Can't Save You, But I'll Die Trying, about the culture of the fire service. What can we do together to make a safer future?
Well, and this book was written by Dr. Burton A. Clark. He is a long-time firefighter safety advocate. He's been writing articles for years in fire service publications. He's recently retired, and he's written this book about the fire service culture. We're going to work with him and try to help him get this book out into the hands of legislators. A copy has already been given to every member of Congress, both the Senate and the House, and hopefully we can work with them to move this through the states, because the public needs to learn about the fire service, and the fire service needs to learn about the fire service. And Bert put this together as a compilation of all of his articles over the years, and he has just been a huge advocate for firefighter safety and firefighters not getting killed in the line of duty, and we're gonna help do that and help the fire service work with their legislators to create that kind of environment so that we make sure that firefighters go home at the end of their shift.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we really look forward to working with you on that project and making that happen. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening to Travel Safely, brought to you by Applied Information, the show about transportation technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Today we were talking about emergency responders in the fire service and technology. And thanks to Jackie Gibbs, retired Marietta Fire Chief. Thanks for joining us to help make Atlanta a better place. Until next time, this is Bryan Mulligan signing off from Business RadioX, and travel safely.